Oh, happy Wednesday. I am Sarah Page, the owner of SAP Virtual Resources. We offer virtual accounting, bookkeeping, payroll services to small, mid-size companies, especially in their first few years that just need help learning what their financial story is for their business. And I have over 25 years experience in the corporate accounting world, from newspaper advertising to oil and gas to janitorial supplies and over a decade in construction. So I have worked in a number of industries, and for a good about 10 of those years, I did to handle payroll for a construction company. So this week, I want to continue the payroll discussion and discuss exempt versus non-exempt employees. What does it mean when someone's an exempt employee? Well, it means that they are exempt from having to be paid overtime. You cannot just say that this employee is exempt. There are very specific exemptions to allow for not paying overtime. I'm going to pull up a sheet so that I make sure I'm giving the basics correctly. So there's an executive exemption. This would be someone paid on a salary basis. We discussed last week salary versus hourly. They have to be managing the enterprise, at least overseeing 2 or more full-time employees, have the authority to hire, fire other employees. And then there's an administrative exemption. This would be someone that primarily works in the office, non-manual work. So if they work in the field and then on quiet days they work in the office, that's not an exemption. Their primary job is office work. And they have the discretion and independent judgment to handle matters of significance. So this would be your CFO, your certified financial officer. Obviously, the CEO is under executive. Your controller, people that are going to not need daily managing because they have the ability to work with vendors, make decisions that can affect the company. They can work independently and they have that authorization to do more of a high level work. There is also a professional exemption. This would be someone that is a creative, um, possibly an IT person. They are doing their work using advanced knowledge, schooling, eh, the computer employee, which is your IT. Outside salespeople can be exempt because they're basing their salaries off of their commissions. And then anybody that is a highly compensated, which again pretty much goes back to your executives. Others like um, police officers, firemen, EMTs, they cannot be exempt. They do have to be paid overtime for anything they work over. Well, most states go by the overtime is over 40 hours in the week. You then have California and possibly others that the overtime is over 8 hours in a day. So you need to know your local payroll rules and regulations and laws. But those that do not get overtime, that are exempt from overtime, there is another rule to it. And that's you can't be paying them $400 a week and calling them salaried, exempt from overtime. They need to be, as of today, making over $684 a week. As of July 1st, it is $844 per week. But come January 1st of 2025, they need to be making at least 1,128 a week. So this is something that I have heard about in the field, especially in construction where they bring on laborers at 10 an hour, 400 a week. Oh, you're salaried exempt. Blue collar workers are not exempt, and 400 a week is not exempt either. So they have to be doing that more office work. They have to be more independently working, not with less oversight. They need to have that ability to hire and fire if it's a manager, and they need to be making that minimum salary requirement. If they aren't, let's say you do have an employee right now that you thought was salaried, but you're not making that, they don't fall on one of the exceptions, or they're not making enough money, you need to go back and correct their payroll to ensure they're getting the correct wages for that put in the past. And then if they do pass the exemptions test, you need to give them a raise going forward. If they don't meet that exemptions test, you need to make sure that they are now a salaried non-exempt, which means they still get a salary for the week, but if they work overtime, they get that overtime for the extra hours, or they're hourly. But you need to be making sure that going forward, if they don't meet that exemption test, that they are being paid for all their overtime. There's some other quirky little things I know in the trucking industry. If your trucking company picks up an item from one state and delivers it to another state directly to a customer and not going through a warehouse, you don't have to pay your employees overtime, those truck drivers. So there's always weird and quirky things in there. If you have questions specifically for your business and you need help, you can reach out to me. I also would recommend an employment lawyer if you can have one on retainer, or just reach out and do a consultation. This is stuff you do not want to be doing incorrectly, because these fines and penalties, if you are audited and found to be in error, can be astronomical. They don't play around with this, and they will make sure that there are fines and penalties. They'll go back a certain number of years, but if they decide that you were purposely ignoring doing it correctly, if you had an idea that something might have been wrong and you were putting it off purposely, those fines and penalties get bigger and it goes back farther. So please reach out, ask any questions that I can help you with. Reach out to an employment lawyer if you feel more comfortable doing that. But if you aren't sure if you are following things properly, please get help, ask for advice, ask for someone to help you mitigate, and make sure that everything is set up properly. It will be much better for you in the long run if you aren't, let's say, gambling with that part of your business, because that can be one of the ways that can permanently close your business. So we don't want that to happen. So hopefully that answers some questions. I am going to start just doing these lives on Wednesdays. I feel it is a little bit easier in the middle of the week. Reach out if you have questions you would like to have answered, and I will see you next week.